Alright, so the first modification I did was to replace the stock stereo system. As you can see, this vehicle has steering wheel controls, so I wanted to retain those. And I had a 2009 GMC Sierra, and I wanted to keep this double din touchscreen that I had in there, so I pulled it out. I got the wiring harness. So in order to install this aftermarket stereo system, the best way to do it is order a wiring harness. People can do it many different ways, but getting the wiring harness and just wiring, in this case, the Pioneer harness to the correct wiring harness and just plug it in makes it so much easier. The way that I always do it is I solder the Pioneer wires to the wiring harness that you purchase aftermarket, and then shrink tube it, and then it's the best way. That way, in case there's any rattles or anything, nothing comes apart. You have to put quite a bit of force to rip a wire. So I've done a handful of car stereo installs on my own personal vehicles, and that's always the way that I've done it. So anyway, I followed another YouTube video, and I ordered the Access AXXESS GMOS LAN 02, and I wired everything up, got it in there, and I was having these weird intermittent issues to where basically the screen would cut out, dinging would start going crazy, beeping like random. While that was happening, sometimes the power windows and the power locks would either lag or not be functional, and really the only way to fix it was just to turn off the Yukon and kind of let it sit for about 10 minutes. And then the trick to that as well is I had to turn it off when it was in a healthy state, meaning the screen was on, because if I turned it off when the screen was off, it would almost reboot itself, and then if I took the key out, turned off the ignition, went outside, closed the door, the screen would come back on by itself. So needless to say, that was a lot of problems. I spent the better part of 3 days troubleshooting that, trying to figure out what the issue is. And finally, I ended up just going down to Best Buy, which I had always done previously, and ordering the harness, their brand that I always get. So just as an FYI, the Access one did not work for me. Also, to retain the steering wheel controls, I had to order separate modules for that. The one good thing was it did retain the chime really well. And then it did also have, it seemed to put a little bit more power through the amp. It sounded really great. 100 times better than stock did. And this one that I have in now still sounds really, really good, but it seemed like the Access one did pump a little bit more power. But either way, this one sounds really great still. So the one that I ended up going with was the PAC RP5 GM31. And that's basically one module. You can look it up. They sell it on Best Buy. At Best Buy, it's like $150 out the door. You can get it on Amazon as well for $108. Plus tax, free shipping if you're a Prime member. And that's the route I would recommend going. I happened to be going out of town in a day, so I needed to get it done quickly, and I was very curious to see if that was going to fix the issues that I was experiencing, which it did. And then, just as an FYI, I quadruple checked everything on the Access to make sure everything was wired properly. Nothing was shorted. I went to the full extreme of making sure everything was completely wired properly. I wrapped all open tips. I did everything I could possibly think of, and turns out that module was just bad, is really the only explanation I could say. So it's possible the Access may work for you. It didn't work for me, and this one that I put in here works just fine. So that's the brand I've always gone with, the brand that's always worked. I've installed on Saturn, Honda, Kia, GMs, and that brand works really well. So go to Best Buy, get your harness as your best bet, or at least get the part number from them, and then go order from Amazon. Best Buy will do a price match, but I like Amazon personally just because it's convenient, and then they have a really great return policy in case it doesn't work. So anyway, I got that, wired it up, and it retains, all you have to do is just turn. And unfortunately, I don't want to take this apart, and the reason for that is because it's really not user-friendly to get it back in there. There's not any space at all behind this stereo. It's really hard to get all the wires to fit back there. I took this thing apart several times while I was troubleshooting this, and I don't really want to do it again. So that's why, at this point, I'm not showing you the wiring in the background. That being said, we can go ahead and turn it on. So I did replace this stereo here, and then I also replaced this here. So this USB port is connected to the back of the stereo, and then this auxiliary port is connected to the back of the stereo as well. So basically I just popped that out. I ordered this from Amazon as well. Ran the wires to the back of the stereo, plugged it in. So let's go ahead and turn it on, see what we can see. So as you can see, these are 3 different modules. So basically the process is get your pry tool, you pop this side off, pop this side off, pop the bottom off, and then everything's, honestly, of all the vehicles I've worked on, this one was probably the hardest to get off. But it does come off, just be very gentle. It does come off eventually. And then you want to start with the bottom module here. Take that off first. There's a screw right here, screw right here. Take this middle module off. There's a screw right here, a screw right here. And then there's 2 screws on each side. So 2 right here, and then 2 right here. Once you take those off, then everything pops out. Just connect everything accordingly, your wiring harness, and then slide everything back in. I also did purchase a Sirius XM receiver, and you know, I ran the cables through the back, down the bottom, all the way underneath, and then I ran it here, up the side, all the way up right there, up to the front, and then I mounted it right there originally, and that's where the aftermarket antenna was. The reason I did that is because I had the Sirius XM antenna inside of the inside of this, behind the compartment, and I was getting really bad signal. So mounting it on the dash did make it better. After the fact, I went and did a little bit more research, and I found that you can actually use very easily the stock XM antenna, which is this antenna up here, that right there. And basically what you do is you pop your glove box out, and then I've taken mine out because I don't need it, but right there would be a little silver box mounted, and then on the very bottom, right about here, there's basically the antenna cord. So what you do is you just take that off, you peel the outer layer off, and then what I did is, because of the amount of space, I ordered a little extension cable. It's a 3-foot extension, and then it just plugs right in, and then I just connected it back there into the stereo. So that's actually, I have that right there. That's the aftermarket antenna, which I do have tucked underneath the floor mat right here, just as a backup emergency because of the issues that I had. So just in case, for whatever reason, my cable fails, I do have this as a backup plan. But that being said, I have found it, the signal is amazingly better if you can retain the stock, and that's what I recommend doing. So put this away real quick. And then as you can see, we have Spotify connected, so we'll go ahead and connect there. So we have that, and then we have our regular radio here, HD radio. We have Pandora, Spotify, Bluetooth, Sirius XM, which you do have to pay for the subscription, but everything works fine. We do have Bluetooth audio as well, so the way that I did that is I connect it, I basically ran it on this side, ran it all the way under, and then the same concept, ran it through there, ran it up the side, and then up right there, ran it right there, and then connected the microphone right there, as you can see. So everything works as expected. Some issues that I ran into is this particular deck. When you eject it, you can see that it opens up like this. If you do not fit this thing properly, meaning equal amount of space on each side, so you can see the space on the left, the space on the top, the space on the right, the space on the bottom. If you don't space that properly, then that thing will not open. So you definitely want to make sure that you take the time, get it in there, and that's part of the reason why I don't want to remove it as well. Get it in there, make sure everything's tight, tighten all the screws, and hope for the best. But I mean, as you can see, you know, I can change right here, change stations, volume controls in the back right here. Everything's working. So that's how to do that. That was step one. All of these things still function. GM is notorious for these buttons to wear off, and that's it. There is a small chance I may connect a backup camera, which will go through this deck. So if that does happen, I'll recreate the video because I will have to pull all this out to connect it. So if that does happen, I'll make sure to get video of the wiring and how everything's tucked away. Because of the lack of space, the way that I did it is I tucked the aftermarket wiring harness basically up above right here because that's the only place that it fit. And then I had the wires go straight to the back. I pushed the XM over here to the side, so the XM receiver's over here to the side, and then all the extra stock harnessing I basically shoved. There's a little slot in the middle, in the back. I shoved them all in there, and you just kind of gotta finagle everything and make it work. This is definitely not user-friendly as far as the space that they left for you to have to do this stuff. So if anybody has any questions with any parts that I used or anything along the lines of that, I think this is applicable to 2007 to 2014 GMC Yukons. This particular model does have the Bose, as you can see, so it's amplified. It sounds really good. It's the 2009 GMC Yukon 4-wheel drive SLT, which is the luxury edition. So it has all the nice leather seats, things of that nature. So if anyone has any questions on the parts that I used or how to connect the stock XM antenna, let me know and I'll be glad to answer. Thanks.